The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Welcome to Planting Seeds, Philanthropy in Saskatchewan, a show where we connect you to the donors and charities making an impact across the prairies. I'm your host, Victor Roman Morrow, with the South Sask Community Foundation. I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in today. Today I'm joined here with Lin Gennutt from Regina Food for Learning. I've been lucky to have quite a few conversations with Lin in the past and thought this would be a good chance for us to talk so you, the audience, can hear it and all the great work. So first off, welcome, Lin. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me today. This is a really great pleasure for me. Thank you.
So can you let people know, I guess, a bit about you, maybe how you came to be part of Regina Food for Learning, and what is Regina Food for Learning?
Well, how I became a part of it, I worked for Regina Public Schools for 22 years, and I worked in special programming, and we were the recipients of the food. So I saw myself, the difference that the food made. And when I retired from the school board 3 years ago, this job came open, and I was like, oh, is this a perfect fit or what? So here I am. Yeah, so Regina Food for Learning, we're a nonprofit charitable organization, and we are dedicated to feeding hungry, at-risk youth in Regina schools.
Perfect. So how many schools, I guess actually, how many schools do you serve today, and how many schools and students did you serve back when you started?
Well, it started back in 1988, and it was started by a group of concerned citizens that realized child hunger was a problem, and I think they started out in a church basement feeding 30 kids breakfast. I believe it was something like that. I wasn't around at that time. Right now, we're feeding about 1,148 students in 17 schools.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned that's a huge growth kind of from where it's been. So I have two thoughts on that. One is, have you seen the need expand as well, or is it more that it's been just constantly trying to catch up to that need, or is it a bit of both?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. The need definitely is growing, especially with the food insecurity issues that are happening right now, and the economy being bad, and people are struggling, and so definitely the need has grown. Absolutely, we've seen growth every year, and even the schools that we've been serving from the past are asking for more every year, just because they're recognizing that more kids are coming to school hungry, and that they're realizing that these are food insecure kids, so asking for more every year. Yeah,
it's a pretty tough time right now, and we've seen it, and I know I always talk about our vital signs work on this show, and actually you were in one of the videos for our vital signs. So if anybody wants to go to the report, growingfuturesreport.ca, you can actually find a video of Lin on the food security section of the site. And I remember hearing from that is that one of the themes of the report that really anchors everything is that we're living at a time, it was produced in 2023, this is still true in 2025, is that cost of living has really, really skyrocketed in recent years. And we've seen that because of that, like the cost of food alone, the cost of rent going up, and the cost of other necessities as we're seeing this year, it's making it where people are truly choosing between, what can I eat so I can still pay my rent? And when you're doing that, you're getting in a situation where families can't eat enough. Families are struggling to put food on plates. And as you mentioned, I'll let you talk a bit about, what does it look like when a child does go to school hungry?
Well, I can tell you from my own experience what it looks like. You get a child that comes in and they're hungry, and the hangry is real. It's very real. And it's really hard for them to concentrate, and they act out, and they can't engage. Their social skills are failing because all they're thinking about is their empty tummy, and they know that probably there's no food at home, and they don't know when their next meal is going to come. So when you feed this child or children, the difference is remarkable. All of a sudden you've got, a child that was acting out and, maybe being sent to the office, and you give them breakfast and they're skipping down the hallway, ready to go to class, so then they sit and you can engage with them and they can concentrate. And, the food not only just, fills their tummy and fills their basic need, but it's just this conduit to tell them that I really care about you.
Yeah.
And it just makes that connection so much easier for the staff, and they can also take that food and they can teach them how to use the food properly, what good nutrition is, how to do some cooking skills. And there's just a lot of really great benefits to having the food in the school.
Just to talk a bit more on that point. So one of the things is you bring the food into the school and the meals, but you just mentioned there, like actually teaching kids how to cook as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so we don't actually make the meals.
Oh, okay.
So we've got 3 part-time staff, and one of them is my food service coordinator. She's a retired chef. She does all the menus. She orders all the food, does all the shopping. Food comes in on Thursday morning and they pack the boxes with the food according to the menus, and the food goes out to the schools and the final prep is done at the school.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that last piece.
So now you know.
Yeah.
So a lot of the staff do use it as a curriculum tool, and a lot of the programs that we are feeding are kids that are in special programming. So they're being bused from one area of the city to another because they don't have that program in their area.
No, okay.
So they're arriving at school hungry. They don't have lunch, probably didn't have breakfast, maybe didn't have supper last night. So in a lot of those programs, they're using that food and they're teaching the kids how to prepare the food. That was one of the things that I did working for the school board. I worked with the kids and we worked in the kitchen, and it was just so amazing because, we'd get the tunes rocking and the kids are learning how to chop and they're learning how to cook stuff from scratch and learning how to make a nutritious meal. And, the guards go down and they just have a good time and they don't realize they're learning.
Actually, I want to touch a little bit more on this point because it actually, before us chatting for another episode, I talked to Envision Counseling and Support Center out of a few South communities. And one of the things we noticed we didn't get a chance to talk to, and actually maybe we can talk to a little bit, is about that feeling of like, what do you get out of it? What are the benefits of actually working in a field like this? So you kind of alluded to, when you started, that was some of the work you got to do and interact with the kids. Like, what is that like? Like, how is that fulfilling or rewarding for you?
Working with the kids when I was at the school board? Oh, it was amazing. I just fell in love with those kids, and, I learned more from them than they learned from me anytime, and just that light bulb moment that you would get, like it's like they didn't know how to take the core out of a head of lettuce, and you show them and it's just like, whoa, or they're like, I don't like salad, and it's just like, no, let's try and make some really cool salads, and by the end of the year they're actually asking for it. And just the connection that I made with those kids, and it was kids in other programs too. It wasn't just our program I was working with. There was kids coming from all different programs, so I really got to know these kids, and it was so rewarding, and just to know that they were leaving at the end of the year with some good skills and some good nutrition habits, and I could take them shopping and we could do some budgeting, like, what do you think is a better deal? Should we get these ones or these ones? Just because they have limited income as well too. And, I always tried to pick recipes with some common ingredients that they may have in their home. And when they come back and say, I made supper for my family last night, and they're so proud, and we would make lunch and we would take it to the rest of the school, and they would be so proud taking this food, to the other kids. So for me, it was extremely fulfilling.
One thing I really like about what you just said too, just that feeling of like, they get to make it, they get to feel proud, they be part of it, is that, and I know this is a conversation I've had with our friends at the Regina Food Bank, is how, having autonomy over what you eat and you prepare and what you're part of has a big piece too, and how you eat going forward, and just how the relationship you have with food and with your diet and with your health, right?
For sure. For sure. And it was always fun because lots of times, we would get the food from Food for Learning, and it always came with a menu, but sometimes we would want to deviate, or I'd say, hey, we have these ingredients, what can we make? And get the kids involved in actually choosing what we were going to make that day. And that was just super cool.
So how has that feeling kind of followed you from being in that school board role to now for so long actually running the organization?
well, I'm super passionate about what I'm doing right now because of my past experience, and just really, really proud of what we do and the amount of food that goes through us. And I love being at Core Ritchie when they come to pick up the food, because lots of times the teachers will come with some kids.
Oh, yeah.
And we get to see the kids, and you know, it's so cool just to say hi to them and to see how excited they are about getting the food, and they're looking in the box to see what's in there. Yeah, it's very rewarding, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
So I know we talked a little bit, and you just mentioned Core Ritchie. It sounds like you might be in a need to kind of expand or have a new physical space. Is that right?
Desperately, yeah. Right now, we've been in Core Ritchie since inception, and the city's been wonderful in letting us use that facility. But we've outgrown it. We're way beyond capacity. So we desperately need a bigger spot. Been looking for a couple of years, but it's hard to find something that suits all of our needs. But yeah, we definitely, we've had to turn down a couple of schools recently because we just have no more room to store the food. We just can't.
I'd like to talk a little bit more into detail of that if you're okay with it, because it comes up often. And I think it's a really important point to stress, which is just that infrastructure that an organization like yours works in has a direct impact to the service, but the quality of service, the efficiency of service, everything with the service of what you're actually trying to do with that outcome of feeding kids. So what does it look like right now with what you're, like where you're serving? What are some of the challenges you're coming from a day-to-day perspective of trying to like achieve? Like what are the limitations, I guess, within that space that are stopping you from doing what you could do? And what could like if you were dreaming, like what would an ideal physical space look like?
Well, the challenges we face in the space that we're in right now is it's just we don't have enough storage. And we've plugged in every fridge and freezer that they'll let us. Plus. So we can't get any more fridges and freezers in our space. So that's the biggest challenge. Even dry goods storage, we've got one little room. So, you know, if we see Cheerios on sale, we can't buy a case because we have nowhere to put it. It's the space. Also, we've got, like, they've given us one of the craft rooms to use, and we do have to share it sometimes. So we have to keep everything locked up pretty tight. And the kitchen is in the other side of the building, so we're constantly dragging ingredients back and forth. We have volunteers that come in every week, and they make our muffins and our cookies and our granola bars and our trail mix. And so it's carting ingredients and muffins back and forth. And we have literally had to put bread or muffins, like on a cold day like this, in our trunk of a car because we have no more freezer space to store the extra muffins.
So you're truly trying to work with any avenue you can.
We are. Right We've even got some of the bigger schools. Like we get our big food deliveries on Thursday, and they pack the boxes on Thursday, and we have some of the bigger schools coming on Thursday morning to pick it up because we can't store it overnight. The other schools come on Friday. So we're trying everything that we can. But it's space. It's just space. So I mean, ideally, if we had like a big open space that we could put in a kitchen and 4 or 5 fridges, and I'm talking big industrial fridges and freezers, and you know, a nice convection oven, and that would be amazing.
To actually be able to have that piece. And where my head kind of went right away too, and you mentioned that, you know, when you're sourcing food, if something's on sale, you can't grab it. And you know, for me, like when it's me feeding my family, very different situation, but the same thing. Like we were like, oh, we need a deep freeze because like we would save so much on groceries if we did. And then we, like after we got a deep freeze, that was the truth. So it's like now expand that by exponential amounts where it's like, you know, it's not like you're just getting one box of Cheerios, say 50% off. It's like if you're looking into hundreds, that adds up very fast
really
into
quickly.
Savings. And it's savings that really means more potential to feed people is what it really is. So.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you talked about the increased cost of food, our food cost since 2021 has increased about 119%.
Oh my goodness. And that's really in like 4 short years, right? So
COVID was really hard on us. And then after COVID, when there were shortages and prices were going up crazy, that was our biggest hit.
And you know, kind of hopefully we're recording this in, I guess, February of 2025 for context, but, you know, hopefully with the way the world's working, that food prices don't inflate even more. But that's something I know that's always on the mind of a lot of people is, you know, the resources that you need to deliver services and those costs. they
for
go
sure.
up, and you're not going to just magically have the same amount of funds to go out and buy what you need and expect to have a balanced budget, balanced nonprofit budget especially, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's my biggest stress right now is the looming food cost increases. You know, with the fires in California and, you know, the economy not being so great, and very, very worried. We've already been kind of warned, expect some increases coming up pretty soon. Yeah, and our funding doesn't go up. I mean, that's part of my job is to get the funding. So I do an awful lot of grant writing and praying and presenting to groups and
So actually, that's a good thing. It's always interesting to hear how different charities are funded, because there's a lot of similarities, but sometimes there's unique aspects. So like, what are your funding revenues? Where are all the funds coming from in order to power this?
Well, we do get a grant from REACH, and REACH does get the nutrition grant through the federal or the provincial government. So we indirectly get a little bit of government money, but we don't get any direct government funding. Everything else is through foundations, through the South Saskatchewan Community Foundation. Applying for grants, I apply to the anybody, you know, Air Canada and K+S and Mosaic and all those places. So anybody that has any kind of community funding, I apply for it.
Yeah, no, and the need, I always say pretty much these words, is the need is unfortunately there, and it's not going away. So it's really, first off, I know us as the Community Foundation, we're always appreciative of the work your organization and many organizations like yours are doing, and there are so many good organizations doing this work. So I'm glad that kids are getting fed. We see those challenges looming, and we're really hoping that you find a path to success with them.
Thank you. Thank you.
One question I have, and this is actually something that you and I have not had a chance to talk about yet, so I'd be curious, is recently Regina Food for Learning did actually establish a fund held at our community foundation. And before I ask you about it, I'll maybe explain a little bit to the audience what that means, which is, you know, our community foundation, we, at the very essence, from a financial standpoint, is we pool funds together in a large investment pool that then, whether it be an individual donor, a family, a business, a private foundation, they can create a fund where their donation is planted and it grows, and the investments earned essentially give back. That's one aspect of it. And I know that, as I mentioned, kind of donors in all forms have funds like that, but it's also becoming more common for charitable organizations themselves to hold these funds in order to build operational needs that are sustainable. So I'm just curious, you know, what was your journey, I guess, deciding to have a fund at the South Saskatchewan Community Foundation for Regina Food for Learning? What did that process look like for you? How did you decide this was the right thing to do?
Well, we talked to one of the representatives from South Saskatchewan, and he explained everything very, very well, and all the different types of funds that we could invest in. And we decided that probably a legacy fund would be good for us. And that was exactly what we wanted, is hopefully that fund will grow so that in the future, because we don't really have any sustainable funding right now. Like everything is at the mercy of our donors. So we thought hopefully it can grow and we can have some sustainable funding for the future.
Yeah, it's really important. And then again, I'll give some more context so the audience can understand what we mean by legacy fund. Is that a legacy fund it's essentially like you took a portion of money and planted it as a seed that will grow into a tree that every year kind of gives back. So it is really hard in the charitable sector to come by sustainable funding. Often it is kind of year after year, a little bit of hope, a lot of hard work to make sure that you can, you know, keep getting the grants you need and keep finding the sources you need. But we also know that the reality is that, you know, the needs in the charitable sector are going up, whereas the funds are not going up at the same pace. So it's becoming more competitive. So it's really nice to see when an organization like yours, it's like by establishing this legacy fund today and having something that can grow gradually over time and responsibly over time, like, you know, years down the line when they're kind of looking at your successor and their successor after them, is that this legacy fund, hopefully in that time, will be something that is providing some really strong operational support that is going to be there every year, whether you're seeking donations or not, right?
Yeah, and that's what our hope is as well, is just to have that that funding, so we can sustain ourselves into the future. And when economic times get a little bit tough, then it gets a little bit harder to get the grants too. And like you said, there's more and more need out there. And I hate that I'm in competition for grants with other nonprofits, because we all need it and we're all doing great work. But the bottom line is I'm working for Regina Food for Learning, and I'm doing my best to get as much as I can, just to keep going. So hopefully that will grow and it will benefit us in the future and keep us going. I think there's going to be hungry kids in the future too.
There's always going to be, the world is never going to be perfect. All we can do is try to strive to make it better than what it is today, no matter where we are today, right?
Absolutely.
So well, I think your work really helps that. Just on the note of, because you kind of mentioned, and this is something that we hear a lot about when we talk to charities, is the competition. I had mentioned that, the need is going up. The dollars aren't going up in the same realm. There's more competition coming up. When you apply for a grant, you essentially are competing to get funding. And the reality that we see all the time is, you'll have any given grant opportunity that we help administer and facilitate. And say you're going to be able to give out to 20 organizations, but there might be 50, 60, 70 that have applied. And it is really hard on the donor side to get that list and see all of these worthy projects and figure out, how am I going to decide where this goes? So you kind of see it from both ends. There's a lot of if they could wave a magic wand, all 70 would be funded.
I believe it. Yeah.
And then on your end, it's you're again, but because of that, it is kind of that environment that becomes it's naturally competitive. And where we sometimes, I think where we get challenged is we like to see more collaboration. And you can see it on our applications when a charity applies to any given grant opportunity through the Community Foundation. We ask, is there a partnership? Is there a collaboration? If so, with who? And it's something that's encouraged. I know there's some granting bodies that will only fund if it's actually a joint program. But we've heard very clearly, I think, from some organizations that we tell you to collaborate, but at the same time, we're actually getting you to compete. So it can become really challenging to figure out an environment where you can truly collaborate. And where I want to go with this conversation is when we talk about food security, and it isn't a unique issue, the thing that I like about it, where I think there's potential to go forward, and I don't know how you feel about this, is that, we have REACH, which is connected to your organization. There's the food banks, and there's all these avenues of, or there's even, for example, in Regina, the Circle Project started to deliver food because that need just became so real. And as you mentioned, it's not because people are eating there and not with you. It's that there's a bunch of people that need food that are not getting it, even with these great efforts. So when we look at kind of a collaborative model, do you ever kind of think about the ways that organizations could, in an ideal world with less red tape and more flexibility, work stronger together?
Oh, I think we could do so much if we could work together. And I think about it a lot, actually. And I love it when there's an opportunity, like the South Saskatchewan Community Foundation has offered some roundtable opportunities for nonprofits to get together and just talk about the challenges that they're having and, some ways that we could work together. And I think our community could be so much stronger if there was a way that we could come together and work together. I actually approached the government about, the liquor stores that were being closed. And I was like, look, 4 or 5 nonprofits could move in here. This would be so great. It's no.
No, it didn't work out for you. But you're right, though. It is, well, even when you say that, having one space that could host multiple people, this is just me dreaming now, but you talk about these infrastructure needs and the need for a new kitchen. It's how amazing would it be if there would be a place where there's probably, let's say there's 4 organizations with kitchens that are all struggling and they're all kind of just doing what they can with the space they have. It's it would be amazing if we could have a space that's even shared or like food sources that are shared, things like that, and start to alleviate some of the pressures that you feel all the time, and increase just your ability to reach people with more food.
Absolutely. I think it would be great. And I would love to be able to source more local. As far as, the farm to table movement is coming in, and that's going to be a big deal pretty soon. And I'm all about, like, let's try and support local if we can. And I think if there was, several organizations working together to source that food together, I think we could do some pretty great things.
Well, hopefully that's something that we're able to talk more about in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah, I always find it neat because there's a desire for that across the charitable sector. I think it's really important. In my mind, personally, when I look at it, it can become, it's challenging no matter what. But I feel like food security is so tangible that I'm hoping that, we're able to work on something together that really becomes a staple and a model and a foundation of how you can bring systems together, work together, produce more together, and then also kind of create that type of impact within other needs in society as well, like whether it be counseling services or shelter services, things like that. Right?
For sure. And a lot of times people that are in need of the services are in need of more than one service. And I think it would be great if there was, somewhere where they could get a lot of the services at once. And I think that would be pretty wonderful. We're in the business of sending food to schools, so I don't know that we fit entirely into that model, but I think still having a shared space.
Having a role though, right? Right?
Yeah.
There's always a space, and like, reaching the schools is reaching families who are in need. So it's really, really important.
For sure. And just by feeding the kids at school, you're relieving a lot of the burden on the families of having to send, food with their kids to school for lunch, or, feed them breakfast. They know that they're going to get some food at school. And for a lot of these kids, the main reason they come to school today is because they knew they were getting a meal in a safe environment.
Absolutely.
And you can't work with the kids if they're not there.
No.
So if feeding the kids is what's getting them there, let's feed the kids.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect note to end it on. So I want to thank you for coming. And before we leave though, how can people get a hold of you? How can people find Regina Food for Learning if they're interested in volunteering or giving back? For sure.
You can check out our website, www.reginafoodforlearning, really easy, all one word, .com. Everything is on there. You can phone me, you can text me, you can email me, and in any way, we always welcome. I love to go out and talk to groups about what we do, and we always welcome people that want to help out in some way, or maybe look at our wish list and see what foods, if they wanted to do a food drive or something, what foods we require. That would be amazing. We really appreciate any private donors that we have, and we have some pretty great private donors as well. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today. If you'd like to learn more about the South Sask Community Foundation or how you can make an impact in your own community, visit us online at yourlegacyforever.ca.
If you'd like to share your feedback on the program you just watched, contact us today